Hello, hello, hello. Hello, gorgeous listeners. It's your girl Liv back in the recording seat for another episode of the Meat and Monogamy podcast. We are on episode 14. And if you are just tuning in, this podcast is devoted to building beautiful, well held lives that fit who we really are. Lives that nourish us, lives that sustain us, lives that ultimately feel good, lives that we ultimately deeply want. Like that's what we're really doing here at Meat and Monogamy. And I am known as Olivia Lara Owen, and by close friends and loved ones and clients as Liv. And it's last week I was saying that I was just absolutely dying in the UK heat wave as a pregnant woman. This week, it's raining and it's cold, and I've never felt more excited for rain and cloud and cold. Like it just feels like such a relief. It's been so dry here. It's been so dry. And like the UK is quite a moist place. It's quite damp here. Like we're used to moisture. Like even in the summer, we get lots of rain. Some people hate that about the UK, but I like it. It makes everything here very lush and very like the nature here is outstanding and just absolutely stunning. And so we've just had this like barren desert like heat for months and months and months. And I just feel dried out like a lizard. And so I'm so welcoming of the moisturous rain that's trickling down and the cold air, and I'm able to go out for walks again. On Monday, I did this like gorgeous 1 hour long walk down to the lake. Oh, just beautiful. So we're in a different place than where we were when I was last in the recording studio. And it's actually been a great week. I tend to record on Fridays, and then I release over the weekend, and then, begin the work week on Monday. And it's quite an exciting time in my work right now. So I am in an enrollment phase for the final 5 spots, the final coaching spots before I go on my maternity leave at the end of the year. And I'm just having the best time. I'm having the best time sharing right now, serving right now, deep dives, and I'm also finishing with an amazing group of clients that I've been working with through the first stage of my pregnancy, which is just like will always hold such a special place inside me. Like the work we've done over the last few months has been amazing. And I love that every single client that comes to me and wants to work with me is bringing something so unique. I get to work on so many different types of projects, and kind of different kinds of thresholds with you. So I am just feeling so grateful, and I'm so excited for this final season. My energy is back, which feels great, and I'm just so excited to be like, who is it going to be? There's I'm in the process of filling the spots, and so I kind of have a sense of some of you because we're already in conversation, but there's a couple of spots that I'm not sure who it's going to be, and so I'm so excited if you're a listener and you want to snag and you're just kind of waiting, snag it now. Like, come on in, book your deep dive. And if you want to hear a little bit more about what I'm offering, I will share at the end of the episode. Okay, so let's get in. We are going to talk today, about something that I think is really interesting. And it's a continuation of what I've been speaking about over the last couple of weeks. We're in this Desire 2.0 series. And the theme of today is around the waiting room. And the life you have right now is not a waiting room. And I want to make this very, very clear. Like, I want to speak today about actually inhabiting your life rather than just constantly trying to improve your life. Okay. Ultimately, all of this healing and coaching and transformation, like it should bring us to a place where we return to our actual lives rather than trying to optimize and change and continually be in this kind of place of becoming. Like, I think if we're not careful, personal development can really leave us in this like perpetual suspension, right? Versus like living your life right now. Okay. So let's get into it. Over the last couple of weeks, we had the Desire 2.0 episode, and then I was speaking about stewardship, and then I've been speaking about what happens when we get some of the things that we want. That was last week's topic around, well, if we spent years wanting, like what happens when we start to receive and to get things? Like, what happens then? And some of you have said, like, thank you for starting this cultural conversation or having this cultural conversation, because it's an important one to have. And some people have described this as like a medicinal prayer, the relief of like that you get to live your life now, and there's nothing wrong with you. Like, there's nothing wrong with you, right? And I wrote recently about this possibility that like maybe you don't need to be constantly reinventing yourself. And I say this as like, I was someone on a dating profile. They were like, what is your celebrity? If you were to be a celebrity, who would you be? And I was always like, Madonna, because I'm the queen of reinvention. Really, like, I had such a heavy identity around being someone who just loves to reinvent. And reinvention is amazing, and it is such an amazing skill, and it's also exhausting. So, there's that. And this sort of challenging this need to be constantly reinventing and constantly having these big peak experiences and these big breakthroughs. Some of the reflection from some of you has been like, thank you. It's like really refreshing to hear a coach say this. I am in the business of transformation. I am selling my amazing containers, and I'm saying, these are life-changing, come on in. And I also can hold the truth that there is a really big part of this that doesn't come from you being shamed or ashamed of where you are. That's why you need to change. I really believe that. So I'm going to get into this a bit more, because I'm curious as to, why is this refreshing? Like, why is it refreshing that, a coach is saying, maybe you don't need to change right now? Like, why is that so radical? Right? And like, why are we so hungry for permission to just simply like live our lives and be who we are? Right? We're so hungry to be told that. Yes, this is really interesting. I've spent, the best part of the last 15 years immersed in transformation, and I deeply believe in it. And I love transformation, and I love coaching, and I love healing, and I believe in desire, and I believe in this, and I believe we can radically change our lives. I have done it. I have, really created incredible things, and I've helped many, many women do that, and have devoted my life to supporting so many of you to do that. And so, like, I'm not going anywhere with this, right? But I am interested in this question of like, when do we actually get to live the life that we've spent all of this time building and creating? Like, when do we actually get to live? And this question came to me a few years ago. I was like, I don't know if this is living. I'm kind of getting everything I want, but am I really living? What am I waiting for? Like, why am I waiting till I'm like 50 to really live? And I see this, I see this a lot when in coaches and leaders and teachers, and especially those of us that have devoted our lives to the service of other people's paths and to support and to walk alongside. It's such a beautiful role to play. It's such a privileged role to play. And how many of you are actually living? What does your life look like, really? And that's what I'm always looking out for. And I want to just share, I think I was mentioning last week about how I wrote about it, but I don't know if I shared it last week, but I've been exploring hiring support for my pregnancy. So in the form of a doula, so like a birth support, a birth worker, someone to support me through the pregnancy, the birth, postpartum. And this was a kind of no-brainer. I was always like, yeah, I'm definitely going to hire a doula, of course. I'm someone that likes to invest. But it's actually been incredibly vulnerable to give myself this. And I think for the first time, it's extremely personal, even though I have invested in a lot of personal coaching, a lot of like support for, financial sobriety. And I'm in a, spiritual 12-step program. And I have had a lot of support around relationships and navigating family. I've done a lot of personal work as well as investing heavily in my business, but it's always just been about me. And like, what do I want? And my life now, and this is the approach of, this is like stepping into the era of becoming a mother. It's no longer just about me. It's about my family, my future child, my future daughter, my partner and I. Like, mother is a different role from maiden, right? And I've been in my maiden years where it's been all about me, what does Liv want, right? And so it's been so interesting to hire the doula. It's brought up all of my well, first of all, I'll say, hiring one-to-one support is so intimate. And I really do appreciate those of you that choose me as your one-to-one coach and holder because, I've had some incredible one-to-one coaches. I've probably hired about like 5 or 6 people over the years, maybe more than that. And I can just remember distinctly like every single one of those journeys. And one particular coach I worked with for many of those years. But the one-to-one journeys I've had have just been so profound and long lasting in terms of how because it really feels like really deep support, and like support just feels incredible because you really are witnessed deeply and seen deeply. And when I'm seen deeply, it does something to me. Like I need that. I need to be seen. It's like a real need for me to like be understood, to be seen and witnessed by capable, loving eyes and hands. And it's incredibly vulnerable, and I always commend those of you that do it, that jump in, that dive in and say, "Yeah, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna step into this, like, really vulnerable support and container and, like, work with Liv," or, if you hire if you hire anybody, just how vulnerable it is. And so in hiring this doula, I went through so many thoughts and interesting thoughts around how indulgent this is to have a doula and how, I tried to talk myself out of the desire so many times, like, um, my partner's going to have a problem with it and he's going to, think it's too much money. And, all of this, I had all these thoughts that were just not facts, just thoughts that were really fears. And I had to do a lot of work to clean up and get clarity on my desire. And when it came to actually choosing, I chose this week. We chose yesterday, actually, this really lovely woman who's like local to me. I'm really wanting like local support, someone who's like down the road kind of thing. And we chose this woman, and she just was so lovely, like just such a lovely woman. She wasn't, I did explore some like really spiritual types of practitioners that would like give me every single sort of ceremony I want around this. But kind of thought that's not really right for my family. That's not really going to fit the culture of my family. Like, I actually think it would be great for me if it was just about me, but like, is that person really going to work in my family? And so it's just been this beautiful process of realizing the difference in doing something in collaboration with another human being. And so, yeah, making this choice for this woman was so easy. Like when it came to actually saying yes, it was a no-brainer. I was like, yep. And my partner was like, yep, I think this is the woman. I was like, yep, me too. What's the investment? Okay, great. We'll make that work. And then just immediately letting her know, yeah, we're in, right? Like it just had that ease to it. And I love that ease. That to me is a sign of a really true yes. Not to say it's not an edge, not to say that there's not, like, not to say there's not edges involved in making a big financial investment when I'm about to have a baby and not earn any income for a period of time when I'm on maternity leave. Like, of course, that's very vulnerable. But at the same time, I believe in this. This is who I am. I invest in myself. I get support. I'm not willing to not be that in this. And I'm willing to do whatever it takes to back my desire to have that support, right? So anyway, just wanted to kind of lead with that story, even though it's slightly different to what I want to talk about today, because it's been so present and it's really made me think about how much I appreciate those of you that step in. It is so incredibly vulnerable, and I just big bravo. Like I think it's amazing. So coming back to today's topic and kind of weaving this in, because it kind of is all like connected. So I think what does happen is there's this sort of like very subtle orientation to our lives that many of us develop. And I certainly relate to this, where, and this is especially true for those of us that are like personal development hoes and just fucking love this shit, And it's this feeling of like our real life is just slightly ahead. It's like a like when I make more money, when my body changes, when I'm finally healed this pattern, like when we move, when we find the relationship, when I finally become, when I'm disciplined enough? Like when I've worked through this like deep childhood wound that keeps, you know, reappearing in my life, that's when, right? Then I'll be able to arrive somewhere. Then I'll be relaxing. Then I'll be present. Then I can enjoy my life. You know, then I'll feel like my real life is happening. It'll be then, right? But that's a problem, you know, that it's a problem because, well, when you get there, right, there's always the next there. There's no place where there's not another there. You know what I mean? Like, there's always another level. There's always something else to heal and look at. There's always another desire on the horizon. There's always another big goal or maybe identity that's sort of, you know, you could claim another version of you, another big edge, another big breakthrough. Like, there's always another there. So if your relationship with life looks like, I'll really live my life when you could actually spend your entire life preparing to live. And meanwhile, your actual life is just happening, and it's happening right now, this morning, on this particularly like mundane Friday. Your life is happening right now. And where are you? You're like trying to wait. You're in the like waiting lounge, like the waiting room, the suspension bridge, like you were just waiting, but your life's actually happening right now, today. This is your life. You're living it right now. As you listen to this podcast, you are listening, you are like living your life, right? And this is, you know, and I want to just kind of go a little bit deeper, maybe into a little more like uncomfortable territory here. You know, I've worked in this industry for nearly 10 years, and I just think that personal development itself just can become the waiting room. Like, it can just become this place where there's just more work you can do on yourself, you know, and I could sit with you right now and we would absolutely find something, right? A limiting belief, a pattern. Oh God, you know, childhood stuff, relationship dynamic you're working through, you know, something that you could optimize and spend time optimizing, or something that you could transform. You're always going to find something. You know, we're humans, we're never finished. And I think this creates a really interesting question of like, well, when is the work actually enough? You know, like not today, like not just like for today, you know, I mean, you know, you're not like, we're not saying here, oh, forevermore, the work is done. No, that's not what I'm saying. But if we were to look at today, you know, when do you, you know, stop the analysis? Stop listening to another podcast. I know this is ironic because I'm a coach and I sell programs and I walk with you and I want you to join me. Like I deeply back what I create, and I run this podcast and I love that you listen and I think you should listen. And I also think that like I'm really cautious to keep encouraging sometimes this continual meaning making and trying to like define who you're going to become next. And I would rather sometimes you go and have dinner. Go outside and play, like go and have some good sex. Go and have a good time, like call a friend, read a book, like, you know, just lie on the sofa, watch TV. I don't know, just do something, right? Like play with your kids. You know, like simple, live your life. Right? Because isn't this the point? Right? Isn't the point of all this work is our lives and like how they actually feel and how they actually are? Like, isn't that the point? And so I do think there's this sort of addiction that comes with self-improvement, you know, and the point of healing isn't to become really good at healing. And like, oof, God, that's a tough one for me because I love my healing. You know, I'm like a healing hoe. I just love it. But like the point of it is not to become really good at it. You know what I mean? You know what I mean, right? The point of coaching isn't to become really good at getting coached. Like that's a great skill. Like I'm very coachable. I'm an excellent client, like the best client ever. But like the point of the coaching is not to be the best client ever, is for it to be like genuinely useful for you, right? The point of self-awareness isn't to spend your entire life being able to observe yourself. right? The work should return you to your life. It should return you to your life. Like, that's what the work should do, in my opinion. Mhm. You know, there's this place where, like, let's keep going because I wanna just go off a cliff a bit. I wanna Oh, I'm laughing today. I wanna go off a cliff a bit here because, you know, I actually think that sometimes this chronic desire to self-improve can actually be a form of self-rejection. Like, you're actually saying, "Well, right now, I'm not enough. Right now, I'm not enough." And, we can use all of this beautiful language of expansion and this desire for growth, but really underneath that can be a real belief that I'm not enough. And actually sometimes the work can be just helping you see that, and that can be really powerful. That can be really powerful. But that not enough can really be very sinister, right? Maybe that's a bit strong of a word, but I want to say infectious. That doesn't seem like a nice word either. But there's like something about I'm not enough. Like, it can just, what I mean is it has such a knock-on effect of, like, you believe your life isn't enough, and then it becomes about your body, and then it becomes about your relationship, and then you don't have enough money, and then, you're not evolved enough, and then you're not healed enough, or you're not successful enough, and it becomes about enough, enough, enough. And then you're driven by that to kind of change. And this is where I think we have to be very discerning. Discernment is such a big thing to learn. And I think that, it's been one of the biggest things for me that's helped unlock things that really thought that I was like doing the work and healing. And a lot of what I was doing sometimes was going around in circles because I actually wasn't very discerning. Um, I think there's a big difference between, I love my life and I love that life in a way where I'm willing to participate in the evolution of this life. And there's a big difference between that and then saying something like, I need my life to change before I can love it. I need my life to change before I can love it. And a lot of people live there. Okay. And so, there's a massive difference here between saying something like, there's something in my life that genuinely needs my attention, right? Versus I am uncomfortable deeply and therefore something must be wrong. Wrong with me, wrong with my life, wrong, 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 bad, bad, bad. Right. And this is such a big thing to get. And I know that this sometimes can be hard to hear. And maybe you're like, yeah, I totally agree with you. Or you're like, don't know, I've not about that before. But there's such a difference between growth that's actually rooted in devotion, like truly, like a true devotion to yourself versus growth that's rooted in like deep rejection of yourself. Right. And the tricky thing is here, externally, these can look exactly the same, right? Like, you might hire the coach, maybe you make a big life change, like maybe you like move house or something, or maybe you like leave your partner and you end a relationship. Maybe you leave your job or you change the business or do something kind of like a big decision to change something. And it really matters what the internal orientation is really saying. Like, they could be completely different. One could say, like, here I am and something wants to evolve, and I can really feel the genuine desire for evolution emerging, versus like, get me the fuck out of here so like my real life can finally begin. Like, I need to get out of this place because I need my life to start. Right? Like, can you feel the difference in that? Mm. Mhm. And, I wrote a piece this week about reinvention. And this is why I've been speaking about this, because I've been thinking about it, as I said, Madonna, queen of the reinvention. And, there are absolutely moments and seasons where it's like, I am done. Like, we've got to move. And like, I'm in a particular one right now where there is a lot that's going to change in my life with becoming a mother and having a baby, and it's so much unknown. And I do really believe having a doula and some support by my side is a great investment. I will be crossing a major threshold. I'm aware that I'm already in it. Like, I'm crossing a major threshold, and I do need guidance. I need someone to hold me. I need someone to walk with me. I want to feel supported in that. I feel very discerning and clear about that, right? Would this be the time to be hiring a business growth coach? Nope, it would not. Like this just wouldn't be the time to be thinking about business growth. Like I'm going to be in a maintenance time and a nurturing and like staying connected to all of you lovely, gorgeous humans, like while I go off and do this. But I'm not going to be actively selling anything or enrolling or coaching or teaching for a period of time. So I'm going to be in a nurture place, like nurturing my connections and my relationship ecosystem. I'm not going to be openly offering anything for a period of time, right? So the kind of support I need is different, right? So for you, like, when you think about your own life, like, well, what if you didn't need another big breakthrough? Right? Maybe you need to keep living through the last big one you had. Like, what was the last big breakthrough that you had? Do you feel complete? Do you feel complete on that? And maybe you don't need another business strategy. Maybe you do, but maybe you don't, right? Maybe you don't need, you know, another relationship insight about your dynamic with your spouse or partner, right? Like, I said this last week, but like maybe you just need to go to bed and like rest, and maybe you just need 6 months of just living a quiet, ordinary life. And maybe you don't need another healing modality, right? Like maybe you don't need it. Maybe you don't, but maybe you do, but maybe you don't. And I'm just exploring, like maybe you don't. Like maybe you need to actually practice communication, like you've spent all these years learning, right? Maybe you need to get out there and get into practice, Maybe you need to start talking about this business idea you have with potential clients. Like maybe you need to start building relationships versus like hiring another business coach, you know? And I think this is where like stewardship and inhabitation meet one another, right? So stewardship says, care for this life, care for this relationship. And then the inhabitation piece says, we'll be here for it. Live here for it. Live in it. Inhabit your life. Inhabit the breakthrough. Inhabit the growth that you have been doing so much of. Inhabit the healing. Like live there. Learn to live there. Learn to practice living there. Right? Maybe you just don't need another reinvention right now anyway. Right now. Sometimes people do. Sometimes it's time. Right? So what I believe is actually like the good life, the sweet good life that we're all just desiring, and I spoke this week about like how much of our lives are actually like an answered prayer, like to a prayer we once had, like a desire and a prayer we once had, right? And so something that I've been thinking a lot about is how good like an ordinary life really looks. I think it's just the best. Like, and it's interesting, and I think I've said this on the pod before. I do get a lot of feedback from incoming new clients that are like, oh, I really resonate with some of the choices you've made over the last few years. It's like return to your roots and like live a very stable, steady, ordinary life. I actually really want that for myself, and I don't really know how to have that. It is something I'm often supporting you through. And I think it's a beautiful desire. And I remember for me, like when I first felt that, like, okay, I don't know how to do that. Like, how do I do that? I got to figure this out. Right. And so like when I think of the good life and the things in my life now that feel really good. Right. I wake up, I make myself a beautiful breakfast. At the moment, we have our stepson with us, so we're just enjoying time with him, and I love making him breakfast and like chatting to him in the morning. I have a lot of flexibility in my work schedule. I'm very privileged to work for myself, so I get to, answer some emails or do some writing or connect with a client, right? I get to put the washing on, go for a beautiful nature walk. I get to think about dinner and think about the ingredients and like, what am I going to cook? And I get to go to bed and I get to connect with girlfriends and just feel love from all around the world. And, maybe that's just like a regular Wednesday. And there might not be like a massive breakthrough in the week, but there's something else. It's just like, this is my life. This is not some extraordinary life. It's a beautiful, ordinary life, right? And this is to me where the sort of miracle of the ordinary life, the right-sized, humble life. And again, this is not saying that there's not active growth and desire and excitement and beautiful things and movement and mobility happening. Of course, I'm pregnant, I'm about to have a baby. Like, of course, there's big things happening. But there's, it doesn't mean that ordinary is insignificant. And I think a lot of us run away from ordinary for a really long time. But I actually think it's like one of the most beautiful things, because it's something that no one can take from us. Like it belongs to us. And it's amazing how we'll so easily give up that like peace and stability we'll trade it in for some short-term excitement versus like living the beauty of like a good ordinary life. Like it's so interesting when I look back at the ways in which I would trade this for other things in the past, and I'm like, wow, I feel so unwilling to do that now. This is so precious to me. It's so precious, and I protect it. Like I protect the ordinary, like mundane stability of my life. I really do. And I think, it's like it belongs to us. Like the ordinary life belongs to us. And I really think about like maturity, and okay, well, maybe that includes building your capacity to receive and experience an ordinary life. Like rather than constantly needing to escape it, like improve it or turn your life into something. And I think there's actually great maturity in that. I know we often see maturity as something else, but I think it's like not running and escaping, like actually being here, like really being here, right? And so there's a nuance here, right? I want to say that inhabiting your life does not mean you're resigning yourself for your life to look like this forever. Like it's absolutely not what I'm saying. It doesn't mean like, just shut up and be grateful. Your life's perfect. Like why you should stay in this relationship. You should stay in this job. Like nothing should change. You shouldn't want more. You should stop growing. Like I'm not saying any of those things. I just really want to be clear about the nuance in this, because it is nuanced, right? It's like we shouldn't be accepting circumstances that don't work for us. Absolutely not. No. Like I actually think inhabiting your life requires a deep honesty. Like maybe living your life fully right now and inhabiting it means being honest with yourself about this relationship has completed. I do feel complete. I do feel ready to leave this relationship. Or a more creative example could be something like, well, this work I'm doing isn't right anymore. Or I do want to move, or I do need help, right? I was just saying about hiring this doula, like, I kind of went back and forth, but I'm like, if I'm really going to inhabit my pregnancy and this transformation I'm going through, I'm going to say, yeah, I really need support. I need help through this. I don't want to navigate that without a woman by my side who's like lived it. I don't want that. I want to do that with a woman. And I feel really clear that I need to find that right person. Okay. Like sometimes we do really feel the honesty of something does need to change. I do feel ready. Right. But you're responding to what's actually here and in your life, not like a habitual pattern of like constant growth. Right. And like you're not using this sort of imaginary future that's like magical land of, I don't know, gold and fluffy puppies and unicorns to avoid the present life. Like you're actually really present with the life as is. And you don't have to like psychologically leave the life you're living when you're actually changing it, some practical elements of it, right? So an example of inhabitation is like you can inhabit a transition. You can inhabit uncertainty. Like that is a place you can be in an uncertain season and inhabit that fully. You can inhabit a really difficult and tender ending, right? You can inhabit the 6 months in the lead up before you eventually move. right? You can inhabit, the business that you're running, like while you're changing it, like you can inhabit things fully, right? You can already be in it. And I think that's a really important distinction to make. Like things can be changing or on the cusp of changing, and you can still be in your full life. Right? Are you with me? I think this really makes sense. It makes sense to me, and I'm just curious for my listeners, like, does this make sense to you? I think it does, but just let me know. Like, okay, like because I want to bring desire back in, a good old desire, because we're kind of speaking in this series about this evolution of desire, and it, it it's worth mentioning because there's something for me that's happening in this place with my own desire where I kind of feel like desire in the past has like pointed me somewhere, like pointed me somewhere else and kind of been like, go there and make this and try that, just kind of like a lot of expansion. And as I've been saying in previous episodes, I'm so glad I listened to that. But desire, like it can also, it doesn't have to point beyond your current life. Like it can point to the here and now in a beautiful way. Like, I want this relationship. I want to be here. I want to take care of my business. I want this family. I want this afternoon to be a lovely afternoon. I want this home. I want to rest. I want to make a delicious dinner. Like, I want something that's like, you know, both desire can speak in the language of like more, which I think is also beautiful, like more expansion, like what more do you want? But it also can speak in the language of like, here, now. I want it now in this moment. I want to enjoy the life I've created in this moment. And I want to like turn in appreciation. And again, not forced appreciation, but like I want to turn towards what I have and say thank you. This is where I am. Right. And I would say that this sort of maturation, this desire 2.0 that we've been speaking about, isn't less powerful. Like it's not less powerful than desire 1.0. I just think it's like capable of something different. Like it's capable of recognizing that your aliveness doesn't live somewhere else. It doesn't live in a different location. Okay. So let's bring this to you and let's talk about where you, dear listener, are waiting to live. Like this is a interesting question. Where are you treating your life like a waiting room? Like currently, where are you doing this? Right? Like, where are you doing that thing where you're like, well, when this happens, then. Like, what if it doesn't happen? What if you don't arrive at that place? Well, then what? Right? What if this season isn't simply something that you have to get through? What if there's something here to participate in fully and completely? And, if nothing in your life changed in the next few months, 6 months, 3 months, like if nothing changed, like what would actually become available for you if you stopped waiting and fully inhabited like life as it is today? Like what would change? Because life is happening now. And, what would you enjoy about your life currently? Like what would you notice about it? What would you like really like let in? What would you stop postponing? Right? What would you enjoy? What would you care for? Like, think about these questions. Because your life is happening now. There really is no waiting room. Like, you're not actually in the waiting room because it doesn't really exist. So, I think as I become, this like increasing devotion I'm feeling to the work that I'm doing with you, it's not this endless transformation for transformation's sake. It really isn't. And it's like not about keeping women perpetually on the edge of the next breakthrough. I want this work to return you to your life. Like help you make the decision that's genuinely needs to be made right now. There's usually a decision that probably needs to be made, like help you change what actually needs changing. Like help you with trusting what you want, trusting yourself, building your capacity to hold it. These are really important things. And then, like, go and live, please. Go and have some sex. Go and enjoy. Go and raise your babies. Be bored, like laugh with your friends. Like make things, travel, have a good time. Like your beautiful life is the thing we've been doing all of this work for. Like that is so true. Right? This life, this is the life. Okay. So that is the end. And I'm going to transition into now telling you, if you're listening and you want to work with me, you want me to guide you, be with you, walk alongside you, design a journey with you over the next few months, and you want to be one of those 5 that joins my containers, my one-to-one containers, then the first step is to book a deep dive. And in that deep dive, we'll really get into your life right now. And we'll look at the decision that's not being made. And we'll look at the pattern. We'll understand it. And I will make some recommendations, 3 really clear recommendations. And I will, if it feels right, offer you my container. And I will tell you exactly like how we would work together in that container. And you will get to be with me through this final season before I enter into the motherhood portal. And so there are limited spots, but I also trust in the abundance that like everyone who wants one is going to have one. And there is limited time. So this is going out the weekend of the 22nd of August, and the work will need to start by early to mid-September latest to be able to take the full journey before I go on my mat leave. So there's just more of a time constraint there's just a launch period, I guess, of like when you can come in than I usually have. And I think that's a great thing because I think it really will filter you if you're like, this is my time, that it's go time. So book your deep dive. You can find all the details in the show notes or on my website or in the link to do that. And if you are in different time zones, like lots of you are in different time zones to me, you do book and pay first, and then you will get sent the calendar link. And so if you want to talk through time zones and potential slots with me before you book, just send me a message and I can find one for you. I always like to accommodate different time zones where I can. So please don't let that be prohibitive for you. All righty. I'm really excited. I'm really enjoying this season of the podcast, and please keep sending me your messages, letting me know how it's all landing. It's lovely to hear. It's lovely to hear the feedback and just to hear your experiences and your insights and your ideas. Like it really does feed this beautiful creation of this expression of this podcast. All right. I love you so much and see you next week.